Good morning, welcome to another video with a guy and his projects. Man, it's been a minute. It's been a few months since I've done one of these, and we're gonna hopefully get back on schedule. We've had a lot of house projects. If you saw my last video, you know that. But those are waning a little bit. We're getting back into the cars. So today I'm going to show you how I replaced the worn hubs, the worn locking hubs that were on my 2004 Ford Super Duty 6.0 liter diesel, and replaced them with the Yukon version, Yukon gear and axle lockout hubs. I think you can see, grass. I think you can see just a little silhouette of them. We're going to show you more in a minute. So the previous owner of this truck spent a couple dollars and put some worn locking hubs on this truck. They were great. I had no major issues with them. However, the one on the driver's side was always loose. It never actually solidified in. It would lock in the axle, but it was always, if you grabbed the hub, you could shake it, wiggle it, and everything else. Not only that, it was almost a full turn to get them from unlock to lock and otherwise, which when we were in Arizona, I never had a problem with. Then we move up here to South Dakota, and even though the sun is beating down on me right now and it's a beautiful 70 degrees, in the winter time when it's negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit and you've got gloves on and your fingers are already pretty much frostbitten and you're trying to lock in your hubs because for some weirdo reason you unlocked them at some point, it hurts and it was hard and it just wasn't comfortable. And with the Yukon gear and axle lockout hubs I put here, it's a quarter turn. It's just boop and boop, and that's all you got to do. It's real fast, it's real smooth, it's easy, they lock in great, and if they ever fail, they fail in the locked position, which gives you that opportunity to not be stuck as much as you would be if they failed in the unlocked position. I know there's a lot of people out there that love talking about how horrible it is to leave your hubs locked in. Typically this thing is locked in free mode all summer, and then come wintertime I put them in locked and they stay locked. So anywho, I am not a mechanic, I am not a professional, I'm not an aficionado, I am not anything or in any way qualified to show you guys how to do what I just did, but I'm going to anyway, and I'm going to let you guys comment down below to tell me I'm not a mechanic. Alright, so your system might look just a little bit different because, like I said, mine were not stock already. They were already the worn upgrades, and now they're even upgraded from that, in my opinion, to the Yukon. So if you have the stock ones, you probably still have the vacuum system set up, which will have to be deactivated. Plug it on both ends, on the hub side and the line side, or just leave it hooked up, whatever you want. For me, I don't have to deal with that because, like I said, mine were upgraded. Not that dealing with it's a big issue. It's literally just plug two lines with some vacuums and a baseball tee, golf tee, whatever. Not a big deal. All right. So a couple benefits other than that is, one, it looks way better than the stock or the worns because it is almost a flush mount. It only sticks out about 1/2 inch, whereas the worn stuck out at least 1.5 inches. That's a bad measurement. I don't know how far they stuck out, but they stuck out a long way. So these look better. They feel more robust. If you were to put them on your Jeep with wontons or whatever you wanted to do, I would highly recommend these hubs at this point. So the kit I ordered, which I will link down below, is a complete kit. Comes with everything you need. The instructions did say you'd have to buy some of the washers and go OEM. However, on the same note, the kit came with those washers, so I didn't have to buy nothing other than the kit, which is good because the kit's expensive. It really is. So first thing I did is I had to remove the old hubs, right? You're gonna have to do the same thing. The hubs come out. It's not difficult mostly. You may have 3, you may have 6, you may have different amounts of little Allen head screws. All of those got to come out. Once those come out, your cover should be free to pull out as well. Once you have that cover off, I like to take 2 of those little screws and thread them back in. Just a few turns, not much. These are going to serve as a handle here in a minute. So the next thing is actually kind of confusing on your first go around. There is a retaining ring that looks like a keychain almost, a variation of flat keychain. You have to pull that out. That slides into a slot inside the hub assembly, the bearing hub assembly. And you essentially have to find the pointy end of that. I use a couple little screwdrivers to scratch around it until you find that lump. That's the end. And I use that screwdriver, kind of push that little thing into the center of the hub. Once you can grab it and peel it out with your fingers, then you can kind of unwind it out of its housing. So the two screws that you put back in that serve as a handle, if you grab those at this point, you should be able to just slide that whole assembly out. Now, I believe the 05 and newer axles have a retaining ring in there, a snap ring that you'll have to pull out with some snap ring pliers. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they have that sitting in there. You'll have to get rid of that. If you're 04 or earlier like I am, there's nothing holding it in at this point, so you can just grab it and remove it. We're just going to go ahead and clean up all the grease in there. You can use brake clean if you want. I don't, because that is your bearing housing, and although it should be sealed away from the bearings, I just didn't want to put brake clean in there, so I just used a towel, got rid of the nasty grease. Now, I didn't really have any nasty grease because I just put these wheel hub bearings in during the winter, so it's only been in there for like 6 months. This truck doesn't really get driven much, except unless I'm taking the trailer somewhere, so that equates to like 5,000 miles, so not very much bad grease. So now, deep down in there on that axle shaft, you're going to have a snap ring. That's got to come out. You will struggle with your life if you're using a cheapy set of snap ring pliers. I have a decent set linked down below that I have done this job or similar jobs. I've removed this snap ring well over a dozen times on different trucks with these same snap ring pliers. They work every time, they never fail, they work good. I link them down below. Spend the money, buy them, save yourself a headache. It's worth it to have. So buy those snap ring kit pliers. I get a little commission if you do buy from my link as well, so there's that. But you're going to pull that snap ring out, and then you're going to pull the 3 washers behind that. There's going to be a flat washer and then a hexagonal, what is it called? Another washer that looks weird. Can't remember what it's called right now. And then there's going to be another flat washer. So those are going to come out, and then you're going to put the new ones back in after you grease them. I kind of just left them in there because, like I said, there's only 5 miles on the set that's in there right now, 5,000 miles. So I just left them, but do as you wish. So when you do put the new washers in, then you got that snap ring that goes back in. You're going to use those same snap ring pliers that you bought to take the other one out. You're going to put that in. I rarely ever get this set on the first try with the snap ring pliers. Instead, I just get it in as far as I can, and then I grab a little punch and a little hammer, and I just tap-a-roo it into place until it clicks and locks into its slot. That thing has to lock, If it's not locked, you're going to have problems. Make sure it's locked. Those 2 ears where your snap ring pliers go should be almost touching together. That's where you'll know. So make sure that gets all the way in there. So now, as you'll notice, the wheel bearing still spins independently of the shaft. So you can spin your tire and everything spins, but the shaft doesn't. That's good. It's in unlocked mode because there's no hub to lock it in. As far as greasing it, I believe the instructions from Yukon say to use a high pressure grease on all of this stuff. I use wheel bearing grease because that's what I use for everything. I bought a bucket of it and that's what I use. I haven't had any issues yet in the I've done this a few times on a few trucks. No issues yet. Not saying you won't. The instructions say to use high pressure grease, so keep that in mind. I use the wheel bearing grease. So when it goes to assemble the hub system, so the instructions show using the existing retainer in the truck to put in before the spring. Mine does not have that retainer. I don't know if that was part of the stock system or not. I don't remember at this point from the other trucks I've done. It might be a newer version, or it just might be something they put in the instructions to cover their asses on everything. But my truck did not have a spring retainer, so I just set the spring in place without a retainer because I ain't got one. So when that spring goes into place, you are now going to also take that black spacer in the kit. And I believe, if I remember right, there's a couple different ones. Or no, it was just one. Yeah, pretty sure it's just one. So you grab that black spacer, you grease that up again. The instructions said high pressure grease, I believe, and you slide that in place. So then you're going to grab the coupler and driver, and they also want that coated in high pressure grease. Again, not professional, used wheel bearing grease. Again, use what you will. They say high pressure, I used wheel bearing. All right, so now you're gonna grab the coupler and whatnot, and you're gonna put it in. This is the most frustrating part of the entire job if you have an 04 or earlier axle like I do. This was very hard to get on and very frustrating, and what happens is that coupler has no way to center the spring inside of it. So that coupler has no way to center that spring or hold the spring to it. So when you try to slide the spring and the coupler into the grooves of the hub, the ridges, the splines, whatever you want to call them, there's nothing to let that spring slide in. The hub is not like angled at such a place where the spring just finds its center and goes. And essentially it was very frustrating because you put the hub in there and then you're trying to wiggle it to make the spring fall into place, and it just wasn't working. I don't know how I ended up doing it, other than the fact that I just kept playing with it and playing with it and playing with it until it finally fell in place. Aggravating as heck. Wish that was a better design. Maybe the coupler, Yukon, if you're listening, maybe that coupler could have like a centering groove for that spring so that you can just pop it in place. Okay, but once you get it in place, after you fight it for 6 years, you will get it into place. Just keep playing with it. I got coated in grease. My wheels got coated in grease. Don't worry about it. It's all clean upable later. Get that in place. Now here's the problem with the 04 and earlier axles. We don't have that snap ring on the outside of the axle shaft like the newer axles do. So if you have a newer axle, you can have that snap ring ready on those snap ring pliers you bought that gave me a commission on. And once you finally slide that into place, you can grab that, put the snap ring on, and you can let go. You're good. 04 and earlier axles don't have that snap ring there. So essentially, once you get that in place, you push it in and you got to hold it and not let it out, and do the whole next step with one hand and one other hand in the way. So I got lucky for a minute and thought, oh, life is good. I was able to let go of that coupler and grab the round cylindrical, I'm going to call it a keychain ring. It's a retaining ring. And but then I think it was vacuum held in place with the grease, and then that vacuum broke and it started to pop out. I caught it in time on this side. The other side I did not catch it in time, and I had to start over with getting it all lined up. So once you get it in place, you could probably use maybe some vice grips or something on the hub to keep that from coming out, or just man up like I did. I say man up, I wasn't really being much of a man, but push that coupling in and hold it with your hand. Grab your retaining ring, which is your key ring looking thing, and you have to start threading that in just like it came out. You start at one end, you slide that into the groove, and then you kind of just work the ring around in a circle until it's all in there. Once it's in there, you can let go of the hub. Everything is good, okay? But like I said, that was frustrating as all get out, that whole step right there. But after that, you're good to go. Everything's easy. So now we're going to grab the cap and assembly and all that. It's pretty much the last part. I went ahead and greased the O-ring again with the wheel bearing grease. I don't know what you're supposed to do there. You probably don't need to. You could probably use oil. You might not need anything. That is up to you. I don't really care what you do. I used wheel bearing grease. I just greeted that O-ring, slid the two pieces together, and put it in place. So this is something that Yukon failed me on, and so there's six of these bolts between the two hubs, right? So 12 bolts between the two hubs, 6 on each. And I was missing 4 of the nylon washers that hold these in place, and 2 of the bolts. Okay, so I ended up having to go to Ace, and it was only like $5. I say only, these things are small. It's actually quite expensive for what it is, but I was able to purchase all of this at my local Ace Hardware. But I still had to do that, which was annoying to me, especially when I paid, like, I don't remember, a lot of money for these hubs. They couldn't include $5 worth of hardware because they forgot, missed it, I don't know. Anyway, I was missing it. Hopefully you ain't. But yeah, so you put all those in, You tighten them down to, I think it was 22 inch-pounds, but look at your instructions and verify what I'm talking about, because you can strip these out pretty easy or break the bolts pretty easy. But once you get them all tightened down, you can verify that everything works. So if you are in the free position, your axle shaft should not spin. You can verify that by looking on the inside of the tire at that U-joint in the yokes where the small axle shaft, the stubby axle shaft, meets the inside axle shaft. If that is spinning when your hub is in free mode, something is wrong. It's in failed mode somehow, and you're going to have to figure that out, whatever that is. If you're in lock mode, that inside shaft should be spinning. If you are in free mode, that shaft should not be spinning. Both of mine worked out perfect. I'm very happy with the Yukon locking hubs. I'm not happy with the price I paid, but I do believe you are paying for the best hub on the market. So I have, in all the F250s I have had the stock ones, I have had aftermarket stock replacements that are similar, I have had the Milestars, I have had both versions of the Warns, and now I am on a set of the Yukons, and I will hands down fully say the Yukons are best in every way that I have seen so far. They are a quality part, and I am happy with the purchase. So I would recommend them. I will link them down below. If I can find them on Amazon, I do make a commission when you buy stuff from me on Amazon. But if I can't, I will also link them to Yukon's site, which I make nothing off of. Really, that's all there is to. Remember, I'm not a mechanic, but give me a thumbs up if you want to encourage me to do more of these videos. Leave a comment. It helps the algorithm, and it lets me know people are watching. And share it with all your friends that want to fall asleep at night too. So thanks for watching. I'm happy to be back. I hope you're happy I'm back. We'll see you guys next time. Adios.